A family dinner at a small-town diner turns into a nightmare when police officers target Marcus Reed, a decorated Navy SEAL, in front of his wife and children. To the officers, he wasn't a veteran or a father, just another black man to interrogate. Humiliation, fear, and the threat of violence hung in the air. But as the world watched through phones and silence broke with flashing lights, Marcus realized this wasn't just his fight. It was every family's fight against injustice. Before we dive into this suspenseful story, drop a comment with your city so we can see how far it reaches. And if you enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe my channel. He looked like any other father that night, calm, steady, guiding his family into a simple diner for a quiet meal together. But what none of them realized was that the next few minutes would turn ordinary laughter into terror and expose a truth that cuts deeper than most people want to admit. They weren't just walking into a restaurant. They were stepping straight into the kind of reality that so many try to deny. A reality where the wrong glance, the wrong color of skin, could turn a family dinner into a nightmare. What happened next wasn't just about one man. It was about every man, every woman, every child who has ever been judged before they've spoken a word. And the question that remains is one that still echoes today. How safe is any place when safety depends not on your actions, but on how the world sees you? Marcus Reed was a man of discipline, a man who lived by structure and sacrifice. As a Navy SEAL, he had been trained to survive the harshest environments, to protect lives under fire, to keep his composure when chaos surrounded him. But at home, with his wife Denise and their 2 children, he was simply a father, a man who loved Sunday dinners, board games, and teaching his kids lessons about respect and resilience. To his neighbors, he was polite and dependable. To his country, he was a hero. But on this particular evening, in a small-town diner filled with the smell of fried food and the chatter of strangers, none of that would matter. The night had started, so peacefully. They laughed as they slid into a booth, the kids arguing over milkshakes, while Denise teased Marcus about always ordering the same thing. It was one of those moments that families treasure, the kind that makes you forget, even for a short while, about the weight of the world outside. But while they were busy enjoying their meal, someone else was watching. The glance began as nothing more than curiosity, but it lingered too long. A uniformed officer at the counter whispered to another, then a second glance, then a subtle shake of the head. Marcus noticed it. He felt the prickle at the back of his neck, the kind of instinct honed from years in combat zones. Something was wrong. He didn't know what. Yet. The officers stood up, walking toward the family with deliberate steps. The room grew quiet, the way it does when tension cuts through comfort. One officer's hand hovered near his belt as he demanded that Marcus step outside. Denise froze, her fork halfway to her lips, the children wide-eyed with confusion. Marcus's heart pounded, but his face remained calm. Training had taught him one thing: never let them see fear. He asked what was wrong, but the officers only grew louder, accusing him of looking suspicious, of fitting a description. Suspicious? For sitting with his family? A description. For what crime? Still, he complied, rising slowly, his children clinging to their mother's side as he was led out under the dim glow of streetlights. Outside, the questions turned sharper. Where was he going? Why was he here? Did he have something to hide? His military ID meant nothing. His calm answers meant nothing. To them, he wasn't a veteran, a husband or a father. He was just another black man to be interrogated, controlled, broken down in public view. The humiliation was suffocating. His children pressed their faces against the diner window, watching their father being treated like a criminal. He thought of the oaths he had taken, the missions he had endured, and wondered how, in his own country, this was the battlefield he couldn't escape. The officer's hand brushed against his holster. The other shifted closer. Marcus knew the EE signals. He had seen it overseas, tension rising toward an irreversible moment. He wasn't sure if he would survive this one. The officer's voice cut sharp through the night. "Hands up!" Marcus froze, his mind racing. He had done nothing wrong, but he had seen how quickly nothing could turn into tragedy. His training screamed at him to move carefully, to calculate every breath, because one mistake could end his life in front of the people he loved most. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. A crowd was beginning to gather. Some raised their phones, recording, documenting, trying to capture the truth before it slipped into silence. And in that suspended moment, Marcus realized it wasn't just his life on the line. This was bigger. Every choice, every second, carried the weight of history, of countless others who hadn't been given the chance to walk away. Would he make it out alive? Or would his children watch their father become another name, another headline, another story too painful to tell? The tension broke not with violence, but with the weight of watching eyes. As more neighbors stepped out, phones raised high, the officers shifted uneasily. Their authority thrived in the shadows, but under the glow of screens and street lights, every move became evidence. Every word became potential proof. One of them muttered something under his breath, his grip loosening. Then, almost as quickly as it had escalated, the threat deflated. The officer barked a final warning, stepping back as though he were still, in control, as though this entire scene had been justified. With a sharp motion, he ordered Marcus to get back in his car. No apology, no acknowledgement of the terror inflicted, just a command, followed by the echo of boots retreating to their cruiser. The patrol car drove off into the night, its red and blue lights fading into darkness, leaving Marcus and his family trembling in the quiet aftermath. He slid back behind the wheel, his hands shaking so violently he could barely grip it. Denise reached for him, tears streaming. In the back seat, the children clung to each other, silent but wide-eyed, as if their innocence had been stolen in a single night. He drove home on autopilot, each turn of the road a blur. And when he finally parked in the driveway, the silence in the car was heavier than anything he had ever felt in combat. He had faced enemies overseas, stared death in the eye, but nothing compared to the helplessness of being degraded in front of his children, powerless, not because of weakness, but because of the color of his skin. That night, as the kids finally fell asleep, Marcus sat in the dark, his military medals glinting faintly on the wall, symbols of service, proof of sacrifice. Yet, in that diner parking lot, none of it had mattered. His years of loyalty, his training, his discipline, reduced to nothing in the eyes of men who saw only one thing when they looked at him. The incident didn't end when the lights disappeared. It stayed. It lingered. It crept into his children's nightmares and into Denise's quiet tears. And for Marcus, it carved itself into his soul as a reminder that even the strongest armor couldn't shield him from the oldest wound in America. But this isn't just Marcus's story. It's not just one family, one night, one encounter. This is a story that repeats itself in streets, in schools, in neighborhoods across the nation. It's a reminder that racism doesn't always wear a hood or shout in the open. It can wear a badge, a uniform, or a smile. It can hide in plain sight until a moment of power exposes it for what it is. Marcus made it home that night, but the question isn't whether he survived. It's how many others won't. How many voices will be silenced before they're even heard? How many families will be broken before the world admits the truth staring back at us? Because the truth is this: no amount of service, no level of success, no demonstration of loyalty can protect someone from prejudice when the system itself is poisoned by it. So ask yourself, if a Navy SEAL, a man trained to defend his country with his life, can be reduced to a target in front of his children, what does that mean for everyone else who doesn't have the same strength or training or chance to walk away? This isn't just Marcus's burden, it's ours. It's the reflection we see when the cameras capture yet another scene like his, when the hashtags rise, when the protests swell. It's the weight of history pressing against the present, demanding change. And so the question lingers, hanging heavy in the air. How many more nights like this will it take before silence turns into action?